Ukraine waited for Russian commanders to relax, then lit a mine fortress from the inside in less than 9 seconds.
At 4:15 a.m., a single Ukrainian drone launched on a one-way mission deep into Russia, targeting the factory that built the weapons devastating their cities. In just 10 hours, it would be over the target, but first, it had to survive the next 30 seconds. On August 9th, 2025, a single Ukrainian drone is flying through friendly airspace on a mission to Russia's largest military drone factory. This facility churns out 500 drones a month, and those are the weapons devastating Ukrainian cities. In 10 hours, this single drone will be over the factory to change all of that. But first, it has to survive. The drone passes directly over a Ukrainian air defense position. It has no identification transponder, no data link, just a steady flight path that looks exactly like a Russian attack. The Ukrainian Gepard's radar immediately locks on. Its twin 35mm cannons swivel to track. The fire control computer calculates the intercept solution. The target is 8 kilometers away and closing. The operator stares at his scope. The contact matches the profile of a Bayraktar TB2. They know the Russians have captured TB2S before and turned them against Ukrainian forces. One struck near Bakhmut using this same approach profile. His finger hovers over the fire button. At this range, his tungsten rounds would shred any drone in seconds. Then, he remembers the midnight briefing. From 4:20 to 4:30 hours, do not engage aerial targets at 150 meters altitude, plus or minus 5, flying at 150 kph, plus or minus 10, through these exact coordinates. No explanation was given, no context provided. His watch shows 4:19 a.m., 1 minute until the window opens. The drone is 4 kilometers away and closing. The fire control system shows a 94% hit probability. Every instinct he has is screaming to engage. The system tracking it is the Gepard self-propelled anti-aircraft gun. Its twin Oerlikon autocannons can pump out 1,000 rounds per minute. Each shell contains 152 tungsten subprojectiles. The ammunition detonates at a predetermined distance, creating a lethal cloud right where the target should be. No drone could possibly survive that tungsten storm. The fire control computer is locked on and calculating, but something nags at the operator. Ukrainian drones usually launch at night for dawn strikes, not at 4:15 a.m. They fly high to avoid friendly fire, not at 150 meters where every gun can reach them. It's 7 kilometers now. The radar paints it clearly. 12-meter wingspan, twin boom configuration. It's definitely a Bayraktar, or what he thinks is one. The Russians have captured TB2S. One struck near Bakhmut last month using Russian flight patterns, but this one, it's maintaining Ukrainian approach protocols while flying straight toward Russian territory. It's 6 kilometers out. If you're enjoying this analysis of autonomous warfare so far, please take a second to hit that like button. It helps us bring you more in-depth stories like this. But the parameters match perfectly. Exactly 150 meters. Exactly 150 kilometers per hour. Exactly through the specified corridor. Through his optics, he can now see the drone directly. This wasn't a TB2, it was an AN-196 Lyutiy drone. The Lyutiy passes overhead at 4:26 a.m. and the operator watches it vanish. Russian territory now lies ahead. Morning reports are soon cascading through their command structure about a drone that simply could not be stopped. By 6:30 a.m., Sector Command near Bryansk has received 3 anomaly reports. Observation posts along the border reported the same contact. A slow-moving drone, 50 meters altitude, heading directly for Nizhny Novgorod, and from there, projected directly to Alabuga. The duty officer orders the immediate deployment of the Pol-21 to grid reference 445892. The system you see here is the Pol-21 GPS jammer. Essentially, it's a mobile broadcasting tower mounted on a military truck. That 15-meter antenna mast radiates 1,000 watts of electronic noise on both GPS frequencies. It creates a 20-kilometer bubble where satellite navigation simply ceases to exist. The jamming signal hits drones at -90 dBm, while a real GPS signal whispers at -130 dBm. That's 10,000 times stronger. It's like trying to hear a whisper next to a jet engine. The AN-196 entered the jamming code at 6:34 a.m. The operator watched his scope, counting down the expected sequence. 3 seconds for the jamming to overwhelm the receiver, 5 seconds for the drone to recognize signal loss, 10 seconds to begin the lost link protocol, which is usually circling or returning home. At 8 seconds, the drone wavered, a tiny wobble as the inertial navigation system compensated for the lost GPS. At 10 seconds, it should have begun to turn. It didn't turn. It steadied and continued east. The operator switched to spoofing mode. Now the Pol-21 wasn't just jamming, it was broadcasting false satellite signals, which would convince any GPS receiver it was 500 kilometers from its actual position. The drone should start correcting towards this phantom location, gradually flying off course until it ran out of fuel. The Lyutiy ignored the false signals completely. Analysis of its flight path revealed something sophisticated. The drone wasn't simply following the railway, that's too predictable, too easy to ambush. Instead, it was using multiple terrain references. Follow the M3 highway for 10 kilometers at the distinctive S-curve near Selzo, just heading 15 degrees north. Track power lines until they intersect the river. Cross at the 3-span bridge, not the 2-span. Each waypoint was chosen for uniqueness, making it impossible to confuse. Visual navigation meant complete autonomy. No GPS to jam, no control to override. The Russians had spent $8 million per Pol-21 unit, thousands of engineering hours perfecting GPS denial. Ukraine had defeated it by teaching the drone to look where it was going. The alert went to the S-400 battery near Nizhny Novgorod. Drone inbound. Estimated time of arrival 9:45 a.m. If you want to keep up with more incredible stories of military and political history, make sure you hit that subscribe button. By 8 a.m., Russian electronic warfare operators were tracking something that shouldn't exist. A drone navigating precisely through GPS darkness, following highways, rivers, and power lines like a tourist with a perfect map. Each checkpoint brought it closer to Alabuga, where 5,500 Shahed drones waited in warehouses before their deployment over Ukrainian skies. At 9:45 a.m., the S-400 battery had been tracking anomaly reports for 3 hours. Bryansk lost a GPS-immune drone heading their way. Now their radar would find it. The system you see here is the 92 N6E gravestone radar, the S-400's eyes. Its panels contain 10,000 transmit-receive modules, pumping out 100 kilowatts of focused energy. Against a fighter-sized target, the detection range is 250 kilometers, but radar physics are brutal to small targets. The AN-196 presents only a 0.5-square-meter cross-section, 6 times smaller than a fighter. That math collapses detection from 250 kilometers to just 107 kilometers. Worse, the drone was flying at 50 meters altitude using Earth's curvature as a shield. At 9:45 a.m., the drone climbed to 200 meters to clear the terrain. The radar locked on immediately. Slow-moving UAV, range 89 kilometers. The classification was unmistakable. 12-meter wingspan, twin boom configuration, possible TB2 Bayraktar. But the location was impossible. Turkish drones had a 300-kilometer range. This contact was 900 kilometers from Ukraine. The timing couldn't be worse. Shift change was at 10 a.m. The overnight crew had 13 minutes left, already mentally checking out. The day crew wouldn't be fully oriented until 10:15 a.m. This was the gap nobody talks about. 15 minutes when nobody wants to make critical decisions. The track showed a perfect straight line toward Alabuga. This wasn't the wandering pattern of reconnaissance or the searching behavior of surveillance. This was a straight shot to a specific target. Here's where the S-400 Pantsir relationship becomes critical. The S-400 handles long-range threats with its $2 million missiles designed for high-value targets. The Pantsir provides close-in protection with its 30mm autocannons and smaller missiles. They work together, sharing radar data, creating overlapping fields of fire. But the system has a geometric flaw. The Pantsir's guns can't depress below -5 degrees. At 4 kilometers range and 50 meters altitude, the angle needed is -7 degrees. The drone was literally flying under the guns. The expensive missiles were reserved for larger threats. The cheap autocannons couldn't reach it. The contact descended back to 50 meters, vanishing into the ground clutter. That's radar's blind spot. All the reflections bouncing off trees, buildings and hills that create noise on the screen. The radar operators see a mess of static where the earth meets the sky, and the drone vanishes into that chaos like a needle in a haystack. The overnight supervisor made his log entry. Possible UAV contact, assessed as reconnaissance, lost in ground clutter, no action taken. By 10:15 a.m., when the day shift finally reviewed the logs, the Lyutiy was 40 kilometers past their position. The new operator checked his scope. Nothing there. Morning thermals often cause false returns. He dismissed it. The warning to Alabuga was updated. Confirmed drone approach. High confidence. Arrival estimated 11:50 a.m. Multiple systems had failed to engage. The counter-drone operators at Alabuga began preparing their systems. They had purpose-built systems that would succeed where traditional air defense had failed, but they weren't counting on something quite so unique. At 11:47 a.m., Alabuga's counter-drone station had been tracking the inbound threat for hours. Bryansk reported GPS jamming failure at 6:30 a.m. Nizhny Novgorod logged radar contact at 9:45 a.m. Now it was here, 8 kilometers out, climbing through 250 meters, flying straight at them in broad daylight. The system you see here is the repellent one, purpose-built to stop drones. Its directional antenna focuses 500 watts into a 30-degree cone, overwhelming any drone receiver within 2.5 kilometers. Its computer contains 10,000 command protocols, every frequency, every standard, every override command ever used by drones. Turkish military frequencies, NATO standards, Ukrainian protocols, even Chinese commercial codes. The operator activated the system. 500 watts of electromagnetic energy slammed into the drone, cycling through all 10,000 commands in 4 seconds. Return to home, land immediately, enter hover mode, switch to manual, emergency stop, every possible override transmitted in every possible format. The AN-196 flew on, unchanged, straight, level, mechanical. A frequency-hopping attack came next. The system began hitting specific frequencies at microsecond intervals, trying to catch the drone between hops. Even encrypted military systems can glitch if you hit the right frequency at the right microsecond. This had worked on supposedly jamming-resistant drones before. No response. 5 kilometers and closing. The Serv VSS-5 GPS spoofer joined the assault, broadcasting false satellite signals 1,000 times stronger than real GPS. This had never failed against GPS-guided systems. The drone maintained its course. 3 kilometers. Analysis of its approach path revealed the horrifying truth. The drone was following visual landmarks. Main road to the water tower. Adjust at the railway junction, correct at the river bend. Pure optical navigation, comparing terrain to stored imagery. But that wasn't the worst part. Inside the drone there was no sensor ball, no satellite communication dome, no antenna arrays. Extra fuel tanks were welded where equipment should be. The control receivers weren't just disabled, they'd been physically removed. Antenna cables cut and capped, radio modules uninstalled. There was no RF pathway into the flight computer. They were trying to hack a drone that had no connection to hack. All stations switched to barrage jamming. 14 jammers opened simultaneously, creating an electromagnetic storm that should crash any processor through induced currents alone. The drone's computers, wrapped in aluminum Faraday cages, didn't even register the interference. Complete electromagnetic shielding meant the processors kept running. Waypoint 1146 achieved. Proceed to waypoint 1147. Initiate terminal dive. At 11:52 a.m., high noon, the AN-196 punched through the anti-drone mesh at 180 kilometers per hour. The steel grid designed for 5 kilograms quadcopters sheared instantly against 700 kilograms of aircraft. The thermite warhead penetrated the warehouse roof. The chemistry was instant. Iron oxide plus aluminum creates iron plus aluminum oxide plus 2,500 degrees Celsius. A molten metal stream poured into the stored Shaheds. The first fuel tank ruptured in 0.3 of a second. Fuel vapor expansion created a massive overpressure. 2 seconds later, 50 drones exploding in sequence. 8 seconds, the roof structure was failing. 15 seconds, the north wall was blown outward. 30 seconds, all 5,500 Shahed drones were consumed. The fireball climbed to 800 meters. Overpressure shattered windows 5 kilometers away. 6 months of production, $500 million of Iranian technology vaporized in under a minute. One long-range drone had proven that in the age of autonomous warfare, all the sophisticated defenses were just expensive systems shouting at a drone that couldn't hear them. If this story surprised you, let me know in the comments below. Did you realize how complex drone navigation has become? It's a stunning example of how innovation can defeat overwhelming technological superiority. We'll keep tracking these stories of asymmetrical warfare and advanced technology. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, and let me know in the comments. What defense system do you think will be defeated next? Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.